Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today we're going to look at how the U.S. government itself is destroying its own exorbitant privilege to issue the world's reserve currency out of thin air. Yes, the U.S. government is destroying the dollar's status. It's not the Chinese, the Russians, or foreigners. They are pushing it themselves, which sounds crazy, but maybe that's what they want. Maybe it's by design, seeing that the United States has lumbered itself with unsurmountable debts. And or maybe they're just incompetent. Maybe they just too arrogant to realize that we're not in the 1970s anymore. And we're going to look at a comment from a former U.S. Treasury Secretary about the dollar. Before we dig deeper into this topic, just wanted to thank you again for your interest in the channel. We're getting up there to 100,000 subscribers, that is. So if you enjoy my videos and haven't had the chance to subscribe to my channel, think about subscribing. Think about sharing my content as well with family members and friends. And make sure you always hit that little notification bell as well to be notified of all my new videos. Hit the like button if you enjoy my videos as well. It all helps. So let's go back into history a little bit. I always like to look at history, and in this case, history is not going to repeat itself or rhyme, because the United States has abused its exorbitant privilege so much that non-aligned countries like the BRICS and the Global South are quickly going for alternatives to the dollar. The major alternative, of course, is gold. Instead of holding U.S. Treasury securities as reserves, people are going to start holding a lot more gold. Countries, that is. We've seen China buy record amounts of gold recently. We've seen since 2022 record amounts of gold being bought by non-Western central banks. Same thing happened in 2023. So it's not going to stop. But back in 1971, John Connolly, who happened to be the guy also that got hit by the magic bullet when JFK was assassinated. He was a Democrat, but he was Secretary of the Treasury for Richard Nixon, which is weird. But in 1971, this is what he said to his European counterparts at a summit in Europe. The dollar is our currency, but is your problem. So that's very arrogant, and he could afford to be arrogant because back then there was no real alternative to the dollar. It was still the major reserve currency. You didn't have BRICS. China was probably one of the poorest nations in the world. Russia was under Soviet or communist control. Yeah, the world was completely different, so he could say that. But as we've seen in the last 10 years or more, the countries of the Global South, or the BRICS, they've been trying to move away as quickly as possible from their dependence on the dollar, not just because of what happened in 2008 when the Chinese realized that their reserves and mortgage-backed securities were at risk. Did you know that the Chinese helped bail out as well Wall Street in 2008 because they wanted to get paid? They didn't want their mortgage-backed securities to go to zero. But then geopolitically, America started using the dollar as a weapon to sanction regimes that it didn't see eye to eye. So the dollar became a weapon. 2022, of course, was a seminal year, I would say, for this process of shooting itself in the foot. And why is that? Well, because it froze the United States and its allies, froze 300 billion of Russian foreign reserves. It blocked Russian financial institutions from SWIFT. And now there's talk that the U.S. is preparing sanctions against Chinese banks for supporting Russia. So this was tweeted yesterday. It says the restrictive measures will be designed to cut off some Chinese banks from the global financial system in order to limit Beijing's support of the Russian military industry. Wall Street Journal reports, citing sources, depriving Chinese banks of access to the dollar is named as an extreme measure. As such, sanctions often lead to the bankruptcy of credit organizations, Wall Street Journal notes. U.S. officials say the sanctions are being considered in case diplomatic attempts fail to convince China to limit exports of dual-use and military goods to Russia. Yeah, I heard Secretary of State Blinken is going to China. I think he will be as successful there as Yellen was a couple of weeks ago. The Chinese are not going to do as the Americans tell them. Chinese are not going to be pushed around. Am I defending them? No. But bankruptcy of credit organizations is going to lead to, I think it's going to lead more to the bankruptcy in terms of the dollar falling more and more. And that's versus gold, of course. That's what it's going to lead to. And why do I say that? Well, because the writing is on the wall with what happened in 2022 vis-a-vis Russia. All these countries have accelerated, the move away from the dollar to gold as a reserve asset. And is it any wonder that 2022 saw a record amount of net gold buying by the global South central banks? 2023 continues. 2024, I think the Chinese bought almost 300 metric tons in 1 month. That's the PBOC and the general public combined. And the Chinese can't really dump treasuries very quickly, but they're doing it gradually, but certainly. And they're doing it gradually, but certainly. And I think that's going to continue. And that's just going to raise rates even more in the U.S. It's going to keep bond yields higher. And unless the Fed steps in, and we can see that the Treasury's stepping in now, they're doing some kind of monetary policy. As you can see here, U.S. Treasury is about to take a step designed to make the bond market more resilient. They're going to be doing like buybacks. How can they buy back their own debt? Well, by issuing even more debt and buying certain securities to try to keep the Treasury market resilient. But as Ben Rickert says here, it's not going to work. It says here, the Chinese government is dumping U.S. government bonds, rapidly causing U.S. interest rates to rise and the U.S. real economy to implode. The Chinese make money by selling real things and have pulled the plug. This is draining the lie-based U.S. swamp. As the money drains away, more and more big political lies are being exposed. In the physical world of things and people, the tide has turned and their central bank fiat fraud is ending. Politicians' lies are no longer matching reality. So he's got a chart here of Chinese foreign holders of Treasury securities. This is the blue line. That's been dropping quite significantly. as you can see here, since 2021. And you can see that the 10-year yield as well has been rising. He's got it reversed to make it look like they're going together. The 10-year yield since the beginning of 2021 is gone from just above 1% to almost 5% right now. So that's what's happening. And go back to Tennessee Williams and a streetcar named Desire. And there's a quote here by Blanche Dubois, I think was her name, one of the characters. And she says, "Whoever you are, I have always depended on the kindness of strangers." Unfortunately, the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. economy has been dependent on the kindness of strangers, of foreign creditors, and now they're being unkind to these foreign creditors. And unfortunately, Americans in general are going to pay for this. What it will mean is that their cost of living is going to rise, and the dollar is going to become less and less relevant. Yes, it's still important, I admit, for international payments, but it's moving very quickly, and I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing gold and silver catch up quite a bit in the last month. Yes, we've had a correction, but that's all it is. And just wanted to give you an example about pissing off your creditor. And we'll go down to Argentina for this. There's an article on Bloomberg here, and this was from about 3 weeks ago. And it's about Milei, who I've spoken about many times, who is a bit of a mystery, I would say. He talks a good talk of free markets. He was going to abolish the Argentine central bank. He hasn't done it yet. He's a libertarian, even though he went to Davos. Yes, he reprimanded those people there and talked about free markets and liberty and freedom. And I remember during his campaign, people were asking about China and Russia, and he said, "I don't want to have close relations with them, but I will allow Argentinian businesses to deal with whoever they want, even though they're a communist or authoritarian in the case of Russia." Well, Bloomberg is reporting here, giving up China is hard, even for Argentina's anarcho-capitalist. President Javier Milei is taking a softer tone than he did as a candidate, saying he won't touch existing trade agreements with Beijing. So there you go. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but suffice it to say, Argentina has become very much dependent on China. And why is that? Well, because for the last 25 years, America has neglected going around the world and improving people's lives, having companies invest in infrastructure and businesses. And why is that? Well, because they've been focusing on waging wars and creating chaos. And China has been very clever. And I'm not defending China. I'm just stating the fact. China, while the U.S. has been wasting Americans' treasure with wars, chaos, coups, all the destructive and profligate things, China has been doing business with the rest of the world. And even Milei, who's very pro-US and very pro-Western Europe, he's realized he can't really snub China. So there you go. That's what's going on. How do we, as individuals in the West, protect ourselves? Well, the hint is in what these global south or BRICS countries are doing. You diversify, you keep your reserves, some of your reserves in gold and silver, because fiat currencies are on their way out, especially in the West, in the rest of the world as well. They're going to be affected because the dollar going will affect every currency. But I think these countries like in the BRICS and Global South, they are aware of what's happening here in the UK, Europe, Australia, Canada, Japan. There's no awareness that they're going down with the Titanic and that they need, some lifeboats made of real assets, hard assets like gold, silver, and commodities. So let's look at the markets. And for my UK viewers, I've been seeing headlines in the mainstream press that the FTSE is making all-time highs, right? But, well, in pounds it is. But if you look back, and unfortunately this chart doesn't go back as far as 1999, when the FTSE hit almost 7,000. Gold was around 180 pounds an ounce. Yes, 180 pounds. So the FTSE to gold ratio is around 38. But as you can see now, the FTSE to gold, and this is gold in British pounds, ratio is at 432. So is the fact that the FTSE is just touching or trading above 8,000 such a wonderful thing? Well, I guess in pound terms it is. And the thing I would add, that's just over 1,000 points in almost 25 years, because the FTSE reached just below 7,000 in 1999, beginning of 2000. So don't be distracted by these headlines from the mainstream press. In real terms, unfortunately, the FTSE is going nowhere but down. So it's 8:28 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold at 23.23. It's up about $1. High's been 31, the low's been 15. So we did trade below 2,300 yesterday, but it rebounded. Silver as well got below 27, but is now at 27.33. I saw the Tesla earnings came out. Results weren't great, but Tesla said they're going to try to improve their cars and make them cheaper. I guess they got the message from the Chinese electric vehicles. Is it too late? Will it piss off existing Tesla owners that they could have gotten a much better car for cheaper? It could backfire, I would say. But be as it may, the Dow is pretty much unchanged. The NASDAQ is up 115 points. S&P is up about 10 points. The currencies are pretty much unchanged, so I won't go over them. I see crude oil is picked up a little bit. WTI is back above 83. It's at 83.37. It's unchanged overnight, but higher than when we spoke yesterday. And Brent as well is at 87.61. High-grade copper is up 0.2%, just below 450. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.